Dharmo rakṣati rakṣitaḥ. The one who protects Dharma is protected by Dharma. Dharmo rakṣati rakṣitaḥ. This is a statement from the Vedas, and it tells us that when we follow universal values, then we are protected by the universal values itself. For example, when I touch fire, what happens? I get burned. And I can't ask really the fire, why did you burn me? What's the answer of the fire? The fire will say, well, you stick your finger into me and I burn. That's what I do, that's my nature. There's no person behind the fire who has any bad intention that wants to burn you. It's just the nature of the fire. It's hot, it burns. But fire can also cook and boil and make delicious food and give warmth when we know how to use the fire and not abuse it. In the same way, when we live our life and we live our life according to universal values, then I am in harmony with life. I'm in harmony with all the different facets of this universe. When I don't follow universal values, I get burned, I get hurt. So for example, what is a universal value? A universal value is a value that applies to all people at all times. For example, the primary value of all the values that exist is the value of causing least hurt. In Sanskrit, it is called ahiṁsā. Himsa means hurting, and ahiṁsā means the absence of hurting. But Buddha Swamiji, he would translate this value, ahiṁsā, to choose what is least hurting. Because as a human being, living a life as a householder, I cannot but hurt in one way. And just having a house, especially here in Bali, there are many ants. And every day we sweep the floor and we hurt some ants. We don't want to hurt them, but it's part of being a householder and having a house. And so, but we can choose least hurting. So instead of kind of sweep them away with malice and with disgust, you can just sweep them away very gently. So in the same way, I can choose to not eat meat. I can choose to eat vegetables. I can choose to eat vegetables because the pumpkin doesn't run away from me. The rabbit does. So it's a choice that I have been given as a human being. I can do, I need not do, and I can do differently. That's the free will that we have been given as human beings. And so life lives on life, yes. And so when a tiger eats an animal, he or she, they don't do it with malice. It's just a survivor instinct. And it's done, they eat it, and they just take whatever they need for the moment to survive. They're not going to hoard it. So when an earth people, when an earth person kills an animal, they're not doing it with malice. There's a prayer in their heart. And they give their gratitude to the animal for giving its life. And they choose very carefully. They take very, very well care of that animal. They're even there with the animal, looking into the animal's eye while it breathes its last breath. And there's deep gratitude for that meat that then the earth person gets. But many of us in the West, we're not really earth people anymore, even though we all belong to this earth. But there's a very deep sense of disconnection to Mother Earth. We don't look at her, Earth, as our own home and our mother and father and brother and sister. So there's a deep sense of disconnection that has taken place over a long time. And we just take whatever we want without thinking if that is contributing to the well-being of the ecology or if it doesn't. We just consume as much as we want without really thinking what does my choice, how does my choice influence the whole rest of the system? And so when I start to think about it, I'm daring to think about my choices, my decisions in life. Are they affecting the greater symbiotic, the ecology? Are my choices, my actions, are they affecting me, and are they affecting other people, other beings? And that's very important to think about, because then I am responsible. I'm a responsible human being, a citizen, and I take responsibility for my actions and my choices. And I'm also responsible for the result. Even though the result is given, but I can receive the result with glad acceptance. So there we have to look into the karmic model. According to Veda, when we do something, it's called a karma, then there is going to be a result, a palam. The result is called palam, a fruit. And the result can be pleasant or unpleasant. Our life basically is the experience of pleasant and unpleasant situations. So when there are pleasant situations, very easy to receive the pleasant situation, most of the time. Sometimes even the pleasant situation can be difficult to receive, because somewhere we know that this pleasant situation is going to change again and we can't hold on to it. So there's basically sorrow underneath. But when there is an unpleasant situation coming into my life, those are usually much more difficult to welcome, because we haven't learned how to deal with pain. And then what happens also is that we think that the situation or the person has something to do with that pain that I'm experiencing. So then it's very easy for me to point the finger at the person or the situation and say, because of you I feel miserable. But so now when we have decided to grow emotionally and spiritually, I as a human being, I take responsibility for my karma, for my actions. And I know that I have done many, many actions in this life as well as in past lives. And now all the result, it's an accumulation from all the karmas, from all the actions that I have accumulated from this life and other lives. And I am experiencing now the result of those past actions. And so when now a situation is revealing hurt in me, how am I handling this situation? Well, one, I can say, you are the cause for my hurt that I'm experiencing, or this is the cause or responsible for the hurt, what I'm feeling. Or I can now discover that actually this situation is just revealing a hurt that already has been there in my heart. Can you see the difference between saying that this or that or he or she is responsible for my hurt, or now this situation is actually a blessing and is revealing a hurt that already has been here? Because the hurt cannot come from outside, can it? Where does the hurt come from? Where do you experience hurt? Like you experience it in your mind, in your heart. So when I'm experiencing hurt, when I don't know how to be with hurt, it's very easy then to blame somebody or something other than myself. And when I don't know how to handle the hurt, then I can say something or do something hurtful. Like, I don't want to experience that hurt, so I'm just going to cause also hurt. And I make somebody feel the same hurt that I feel, just so that I don't have to be alone in my hurt. But that is not very healthy, because what happens is, if I'm in hurt, and I'm also now doing something hurtful to the other person or to the situation, manipulate the situation, what am I doing? I'm doing another action. And then I will experience that same hurt again in another situation. But here I have now, I can bring in this value of ahiṁsā, of not causing hurt. Even though I'm in so much hurt right now, I can choose to not perpetuate that hurt and project it onto something other than myself. Instead of, I bring in now that value of not causing hurt, and I'm choosing to welcome my hurt that I'm experiencing. I'm choosing to be with my hurt, process my hurt, discover that really this hurt has nothing to do with anything outside of myself. I have projected my happiness, my security onto something other than myself. And this right now, this situation is my opportunity to wake up to that fact that I have projected my happiness and my security onto something other than myself. How will I discover that in another way? So for a mumukshu, for a seeker, a difficult situation is actually the best situation to wake up and discover, where have I given my happiness, my well-being, my security away? Where have I projected it onto something other than myself? So when I bring in now this value of ahiṁsā, the primary value of all value, then I am protected by that very value. Because if I don't, if I'm now hurting and I'm causing hurt to somebody else or something else, the law of karma says it will come back again. And it will come back as many times until I am ready to face that hurt that I'm experiencing, process it, be very gentle with myself, very understanding and validating of my hurt, and spiritualize this situation. Spiritualize this situation means this is my chance to discover that I have projected my happiness and my security onto something other than myself. Who or what is the source of happiness and security? I am the source of happiness and security. Nothing else in the universe is responsible for my well-being. So, the value of ahiṁsā, we have to discover the value of that value. We have to discover the value of that value. What's the value of ahiṁsā? The value of ahiṁsā is that if I follow this value, if I make that my value, I am protected. I'm not perpetuating this hurt. I'm processing the hurt and I'm getting out of the hurt. I'm discovering that I am the source of happiness and security. And when I am protected, all the people around me are also protected. I can feel safe with myself, and other people around me, they also feel safe because they know I am a responsible person. I'm not going to project it onto them. They can feel safe around me. Because do you really want to cause me hurt? Not really. Do I want to cause you hurt? Not really. In the heart of heart, nobody wants to cause anybody hurt. We only do it when we're helpless. No being wants to get hurt. No animal wants to get hurt. No human being wants to get hurt. No being wants to be in hurt. All beings run away from hurt. As soon as I am in hurt, I feel alienated. I don't feel like myself. All I want is to get rid of that hurt. I cannot stand being in hurt. So if I would really be hurt, if my nature would be hurt, I would be happy being in hurt. But I'm not. I cannot stand it. But I'm very, very happy when I am well. I love being well. And maybe being well is my nature, but I don't know it. And that I can discover through self-knowledge. Discover what's the nature of myself. Is it hurt or is it whole and complete? Well, the Veda says it is whole and complete. But in order to discover that, we have to relatively feel whole and complete. We have to relatively feel and know I am well, everything is okay with me. So the value of ahiṁsā, the value of causing least hurting towards all my experiences, that is a choice. Right? I do not have a choice over the experiences that I have. They are all given. But I do have a choice how I respond to the experiences that I have. I have a choice to do, not to do, or to do differently. I have a choice to eat meat or not to eat meat. Of course, there are always exceptions when there is a physical disease or There's always exceptions to the rules, of course. Nothing is black or white. And we have choices. And so here we want to really look into the faculty of choice. And in this new series now of Pearls of Wisdom, we're going to look into the different values of the Vedic tradition, which are really not only belonging to the Vedic tradition, as we said at the beginning, these are universal values. So they're really values that apply to all people at all times. There are cultural values that do not apply to all people at all times. A cultural value, for example, is, for example, in India, you do not wear in certain places in India like this. You have to cover your shoulders. It's a cultural value that the women cover their shoulders. Of course, that can all be looked into and can be questioned, but at this given time, it is a value. People feel very uncomfortable if you do not cover the shoulders. So when I go to India, I can honor that value and then cover my shoulders. So that is a cultural value. For example, in Europe, it's not acceptable to burp at the table. Like, everybody gets upset if you burp at the table. In India or here in Bali, you can do that, and it's no offense at all. So again, burping or not burping, it's a cultural value. So those are cultural, and they are applicable at certain times, at certain places. And then there are universal values, ethical values, moral values, basically how I want to be treated. I want to be treated with kindness, with appreciation. I don't want to be rejected or judged. And so however I want to be treated, that's how I treat others. Because the fact is, whatever you put out, that's what you're going to experience. I do not have a choice how other people behave towards me, but I have a choice how I behave towards other people. I can never change another person unless they want to, and I can't change the world really either. It has its laws, but I can change my behavior and my understanding, and I can change my values. I can discover again the value of values. So welcome to this series of the values of values. Om.